My name is Leanne Barber, owner and movement creator at Two Hearts Dance and Yoga, and it's my pleasure to bring some gems of inspiration to you during this time. It's my pleasure to bring you Jenny DeTore, creator of Powerhouse Dance, a dance company in South Jersey that continues to pump in the dancers and provides a positive environment for those who are looking to train at a high level or just for those who want to have fun on the dance floor. Jenny grew up dancing her whole life and continued to dance on her college dance team and company at the University of Florida. She continues to bring her passion for dance into everything that she does, and it's a pleasure for us to have her here with us today. Thank you so much, Jenny, for being here.
Thank you, Leanne, for having me. It's my honor. Thank you so much.
It's really cool to see Powerhouse and how it's kind of grown for a while. I've just kind of been a fan of yours. And it's awesome to see. But how have you continued to keep your students engaged during this time?
So it's been tricky, but everybody has been craving some kind of connection. So right when this all started, I kind of just shut everything down for a couple weeks. I didn't jump right into the virtual sessions. A lot of people were doing that, and my heart just wasn't in it. I think I was just so sad and upset. So it took me a couple weeks to say, okay, we're going to just do virtual classes so we have something to stay connected. So at first, I think we were doing 1 or 2 a week for the first few weeks. And there was a solid group of like 20 to 30 people who were jumping into all those classes. It seemed like they really loved it. But then I could see there was a lot of people who clearly were not into it. And then after that, I think for the month of May, I jam-packed a schedule. I had like 5 or 6 classes going on a week because it seemed like people really liked it. But I think that caused a little bit of burnout, just even in organizing it and orchestrating it. And joining the classes, I was getting a little emotional about it. And just missing the in-person connection. So I put a pause on that after May, or maybe it was April. I don't know when. Anyway, I took a little break from that, but I also had some like coffee chat hours that I orchestrated on Zoom with some of our people, whoever wanted to join. After the virtual classes, we would have like a happy hour sometimes for whoever wanted to hang on. And people did, like after they were dancing, they would just sit there. We would all stare at each other on the screen and be like, we miss each other. So that's been it. And then the past few weeks, we've been doing outdoor classes in person, just, keeping it outside so everyone feels a little more comfortable. But I know some people still aren't comfortable coming to those, and totally fine. I respect that. But that's what we've been trying to do, just to stay with each other and stay dancing.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. And the more I talk to, other studio owners, it's the same thing. Like you just miss that person to person. There's nothing like dancing with someone next to you, even if they're a complete stranger. It's that energy is so needed, especially now. So I respect how you kind of took a pause and then, kind of continued on how you were going to do. So that's very admirable. And I see that you have, all of your students coming back for those outdoor dances now.
Yeah, they're loving it. They're like, we're together, we could dance. We're dancing full out, because before, like, we were all admitting to, when we're in our homes, in our bedrooms, and no one can really see us, we're like, half-assing it a tiny little bit. So you're absolutely right. With the energy of other people around you, you can't really compare to that. So.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what you were like as a kid and how you discovered dance.
What I was like as a kid, I don't really remember. I remember being like goofy and weird, very weird, which my son reminds me of because he's 5, and like a lot of how he is reminds me of how I was. But then I definitely went through like, the awkward adolescent phase where I was like really super serious and like reserved and quiet. So I think now I'm kind of like back to how I was when I was a kid. But I fell in love with dance. My earliest dance memory was probably with my sister. I have a sister who's about a year older. I would make her play a game I called it Moves, which was really just choreography, but I didn't know what choreography was. Like I would force her. I'm like, let's try this position and this pose. And she was like, no, but she did it. She would do it with me. But I don't really know like what made me start doing that. We did together take a dance class, a tap and ballet class, I think when I was like 6. But I don't remember loving it. The only memory I have from it is at one point we had to hold hands with each other in a circle, all the kids. And I remember thinking, there's a little boy in class. I remember thinking his hands are like really clammy and I hated it. But that's the only memory I have from that class. So then a couple of years later, signed up for at a studio that was mostly ballet intensive. And I don't know, I just fell in love with that. The director there, like she was an older woman, but she was very firm and serious, but like I loved it. I loved that it was something that like I could excel at, but I also had so much work to do, like to perfect this art form. Um, and then just like casually on the side, like when I would have sleepovers with friends, like I was always making us make up dances. Like I would rally up neighborhood kids to like put on halftime shows when our like family was watching games on TV. So I was always trying to get people together to just make choreography. So they're like the earliest memories of falling in love with dance. Then later, like high school, I was watching the MTV music videos and like I loved watching them and the dance there, like, Britney Spears and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think they were the earliest memories of falling in love with dance.
Awesome. That's really cool. And it's cool that like you kind of pulled other people into it, like your sister, whoever just happened to be around. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's like what I do now. I feel like that's what I do with Powerhouse. I'm like, all right, who wants to dance? Let's just get together. We'll just dance. That's pretty much what I'm doing now.
Really cool though. What were some of your earliest challenges as a dancer? Like in the studio or just things that you remember growing up?
Sure. I think I did start a little bit later, starting to like dance seriously. I think I was 9 or 10 or so. And I remember a lot of the girls at the studio where I was, they had started when they were like 4 or 5. So initially I did feel like I was behind. So that was kind of like an insecurity a little bit. But I mean, I think I caught up and then I was, good to go. But I would also say, I think like self-criticism was huge. And I think that's true for a lot of dancers. As much as I loved ballet and I love like staring in the mirror and trying to perfect it, I think that also lends itself to a lot of psychological, I don't want to say damage, but I don't know what the word is, but just criticizing myself a lot. And that led to, I'm not even going to call it an eating disorder, but I was like 13 and I remember being like, okay, I need to get really skinny, even though I was literally like 100 pounds. And I lied on a dance application to say I was like 95 pounds, like lying about my weight and like cutting up cucumbers and eating like a bowl of cucumbers and fat-free salad dressing for dinner when I was like 13. I don't know. I'm not saying like, yeah. So just that mentality, I would say, was a challenge, I guess, for sure. Yeah, I would say that was like the biggest thing probably as a challenge as a dancer, as a younger dancer.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing kind of that eating disorder. It's kind of something that is very prevalent in the dance world that not that many people are talking about. Now that, and I'm sure you see it as well as a studio owner, now that I'm older, I see a lot of younger girls who are going through kind of the self-image issue or struggling with eating disorders and kind of hiding it. But I think it's important, like for someone like you to, say that you struggled with this because maybe someone else might be going through the same thing or can relate, because it is something that happens in the dance world. We spend a lot of time in front of the mirror. We spend a lot of time kind of comparing ourselves to others. And it's something that, sometimes needs to be brought to light. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. My daily thought was like, I need to be skinnier. These are things I have to do. And I just don't think that's healthy mindset. So yeah, I definitely think it's on some level, a lot of dancers probably struggle with that, especially on the younger end.
Right. Thanks for sharing again.
You're welcome.
So in my dance community here, and I'm sure in yours as well, we have many students who aspire to dance at the college level. Can you tell us what it was like to dance at the University of Florida?
It was awesome. It was such a great experience. I was on the Dazzlers dance team at the University of Florida for 2 years. And I think my favorite part of it was being on a team together with a bunch of women where we practiced multiple days a week. We worked out together. We had performances, putting on a uniform, like all of that was just like being part of something bigger is always something that I loved. So I definitely got that satisfaction there. And that school is really big too in athletics. So, and we were, as a dance team, we were part of the athletic program. So we weren't just like a club or anything. So that was really cool. It was awesome. I loved it stepping out on, we danced at basketball games primarily, but sometimes we would go perform at the football games, and that was awesome. And I just loved it. And I loved learning new choreography all the time. That was probably one of my favorite parts. I think the practices I actually enjoyed more than the performances. I don't know. I just love learning and, like, again, perfecting routines and cleaning and all that good stuff. So, but I actually didn't make it when I first tried out. So I think that's important to note too. I tried out the end of my freshman year going into my sophomore year of college. I kind of just threw everything together. I did not prepare at all. I had also, like, gained some freshman pounds at that point too. So I was not in my top physical condition. So I was not prepared, but I auditioned anyway. Didn't make it. My sister had been on the team too. And I was actually planning on not re-auditioning, but then a few months before the next year's auditions, she said that the coach had asked, how is your sister planning on auditioning again? And I was like, okay, I have to audition. So, like, it literally took just that one little bit of encouragement indirectly, not even directly through the coach, to get me remotivated to want to audition again. So at that point, I actually reached out. I emailed the coach, asked if I could come sit in on some practices. So I did, just to, like, see what it was like. And I just loved being there at the practices. So I asked if she could maybe pair me with someone on the team to help me, prepare for tryouts. I guess I didn't want to work with my sister. I don't know why I didn't. So I worked with a girl named Adri. I'm, like, forever indebted to her. We got together. She basically gave me private lessons, and then that next year I made it. So yeah, it was an awesome experience, just being part of something that huge.
That's really cool. And it's really cool to hear that, your sister was there with you too. So that's really neat.
It was cool. We're like little twinsies, even though we're not twins.
Good stuff. So Jenny, who are some of your inspirations? And they can be dancers or non-dancers, but who would you say inspires you most?
That is a tricky question, and I was thinking about it. I think I tend to draw inspiration from everybody that I meet. Like, every single person, I feel like I get a little bit of inspiration from. But I mean, if we're talking about, like, overall, definitely my parents, my mom. She has just always been a huge inspiration to me. She works very hard. She always has challenged me to think independently and think outside the box. And I think that's super huge. Also, my dad has always inspired me. Like, literally the message I have in my mind from my dad is, you can do whatever you want. And that's been ingrained in me from him. And he has been an entrepreneur on so many levels in different fields throughout his life. And I think me seeing that has inspired me too in starting Powerhouse, and just knowing that I can do what I set my mind to. But again, just going back to, like, individuals that I meet on a daily basis. For example, there's two girls who come to Powerhouse. I don't call them girls, they're women. These women have been auditioning for years for teams, and they are so positive. Even after, like, they audition, they keep going back, and me just seeing them, how persistent they are, like, that's inspiring to me on a daily basis, because I tried out for a couple of pro teams, like, many, many years ago. I didn't make it the first time. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to do anymore. I'm not going to try again. So seeing them just keep going after their dreams is super inspiring to me. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I don't have, like, a major, like, celebrity or anybody that inspires me. Dance wise, there are a few choreographers, like Brian Friedman. I absolutely love. I've always loved his choreography. A few years ago, I did an intensive with Galen Hooks.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was super inspiring. Yeah, she was awesome. And just her whole mentality and how she teaches you to break through, like, limiting beliefs that you have as a dancer. That was huge. I did that a couple years ago, and that was, like, kind of like a mental game changer for me. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing me. I always like to ask that, just because, clearly I'm inspired by you. So I want to know
Aww.
who inspires you. And it's great to hear that even your students inspire you. So that's awesome. Very cool. So what led you to wanting to start Powerhouse?
So prior to starting Powerhouse, I had my son in 2014. I hadn't danced before that, like, consistently for several years. So right after I had him, I was totally out of shape. I was just feeling like I needed to do something for myself and get back to dance. And I met someone who had signed up for a local adult hip hop class. So I actually signed up for that. It was based here in South Jersey. And it was like a lifesaver. It got me back into dancing, got me healthy again. I did that for 2 years, but the way that program was set up was even as adults, we had to participate. You didn't have to, but it was set up to participate in a recital at the end of the year. Oh, like the kids recital, that we were the adult class in the kids recital. So like, I totally felt super old, but kind of like halfway through that second year, I realized, okay, like I need to be challenged more again. I now have my feet back in it. I want something where I'm not doing a recital at the end of the year and we're working on the same choreography from January until May. I want something that changes. It's high energy, a little more challenging. And I remember after every single class with that studio, I was like, there have to be other people who want like a similar feel that like that I'm craving, and like something with a higher energy. So that got me started thinking about it, just feeling like I had a need for something that didn't exist without going into the city. But even going into the city, I felt that was definitely geared towards like people who are doing this as a profession. And I wasn't that either. I was kind of like, I'm out of college, many years out of college. I still want to challenge, but I also want it to just be for fun. So it was this like kind of fine line. And I was also following on Instagram at that time, One Vibe Dance. They're based in Jacksonville, Florida. And the woman who runs it is a former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, but several girls that I danced with in college were posting that they were going to her classes. And it looked so fun. Like they're in this huge room, like 50 people, doing a new dance every week, dropping classes for adults. I was like, we could just do this here. Like, why can't we do this here? So that was what gave me like the thought that, okay, we could create something like that here. But I definitely dragged my feet on it for quite a while until I had some conversations, which I think I told you last time I was talking with people about it. And I remember one day I was having coffee with my sister and a mutual friend, and my sister Meg was like, tell her your idea about your dance program. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll share it. So I told her, and she was like, that sounds so awesome. I would come. You should do it. Let me know if you need suggestions for places to rent from. So I was like, okay, like one person likes this idea. It could, it's someone besides just me. So that's what got it started. Initially, though, I was like, but I've never taught a class before. Are people going to come? So it took a while to like get past that and get the ball rolling. But that was the initial desire. There was something that I wanted that I couldn't find. So that's why I started it.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, what a great story. It's like, you started from something, just like you said, something that you wanted, and kind of put yourself out there, and look at what happened. That's so awesome. What are some of the challenges you had with starting up, like on the business end of things?
On the business end, I think just getting started and knowing where to start. In my mind, it seemed like such a big undertaking. So I had to rein it in a little bit and break it down into tasks. And I still have it saved on my computer, probably like the list of, okay, these are the things that I need. I need to find a space. And once I find the space, I need to schedule a day and a time. I need a website. I need to figure out how people are signing up. And I toyed in the beginning with like, I have Mindbody, which I use, which it's not super expensive, but for when you're not making any money, like it was a decision that I had to make, and I just went for it. I wanted it to be professional. I wanted to know who was signing up for class and have their information. So I think just like coming up with all those tasks, I gave myself a timeline for when I wanted to have each thing done. And I kind of worked backwards. I said, this is when I want to have my first class. Let me work backwards from there and set all these deadlines for myself. And I just took it literally one task at a time to make it manageable, because otherwise it seemed really big, like a really big undertaking. I was starting something. So that helped just to make it doable. So that was probably the biggest challenge, just actually getting started.
Very cool. That's really awesome. And I think with anything, I ask this question because some of my students are talking about starting things, starting companies, starting dance studios, and it's important those like small steps that you take in the very beginning and where they can take you. So thank you for sharing that. It's always interesting to know how things, started for every business owner.
Yeah. And I think like you can't let perfectionism get in the way, because that was something in the beginning. I was like, well, I don't have all of this set up perfectly, so I just can't do it. But that was a lie. Like you can, with it not being exactly as you want it, you can still take steps. Like I wasn't in my ideal location in the beginning. So like you just have to do something. Something is better than not doing anything at all to get started.
Absolutely. I guess tell us a little about what makes Powerhouse what it is and how you continue to create this positive community of dancers.
I think what makes it what it is literally each and every person who comes and takes class, and also the instructors who come. Like, they all set the tone, and the tone is, it's very welcoming. Everybody supports each other. There's nothing judgmental, or at least if people are judging people, I don't see that. It's inclusive. We're not there to like cut anybody down or, you know, turn you into this perfect dancer. Like, we're there to have fun, yet we're there to train to and challenge ourselves. But I think people feel like they belong there and that they're welcomed there, and that's that's a good feeling to have. And the instructors too, when they're teaching, they all instill so much confidence and in the dancers, and they set everybody at ease. Like, they're not, again, they're not on power trips. Like, they're there for the students and the dancers who are coming. So I think that's it. They come to have a good feeling, and they have that good feeling, and that's what brings them back. And they all connect with each other too. So I think when you're in a place where you feel connected, you're not just showing up for a class and then leaving, which some people do that because they choose to do that, and that's fine. But for the most part, it seems like everybody there wants to connect with each other, and I love seeing that too. But I think that's what keeps people coming back. Like, I don't necessarily think that I think that started with me setting that tone, but it's everybody else who brings that there. And it's funny because each class too has its own different energy, just depending on who's there. So like, we might have a class that's like a little bit quieter one day just because of the people, and then we might have like a crazy loud class. So it just depends. But it's literally each person who comes, they make it what it is.
Absolutely. That's really cool to hear from you. And I guess my last question for you is, what's in the future for Powerhouse?
Oh, that is such a good question. In these uncertain times, that is highly uncertain. It's kind of ironic because right before the pandemic, I was like in this growth mode, like, where are we going next with Powerhouse? What are we going to do? You know, we've been doing one class a week forever. I started adding Sunday classes in, and I definitely wanted to grow it and start building a schedule and adding more classes. So in my mind, I had these options of, maybe I will invest in my own physical space. So we have our very own physical location. And I loved that idea because then people could lounge between classes or like hang out and do work there. Like, it would almost be like a home away from home. I also was thinking about adding it's funny, a virtual side of the business, doing tutorials and maybe live streaming classes, which we've kind of been forced into doing now, which is funny. So those are things that I was looking at. And before the pandemic, I was like, I don't want to do the virtual thing. I want to focus on a physical space. So literally like the week before everything shut down, I had looked at we were driving around looking at spaces, and then everything shut down. And I'm actually now very thankful that I'm not carrying this like huge rent in my own space, because yeah, that just would have been very difficult right now. But that has also made me question if that's actually the route that I want to go with Powerhouse. I don't know. Or if the way we're doing it just works, like popping up, renting studio space from another dance studio. So I don't know right now. Right now, I feel like it's a time where I'm like taking it literally a week or a month at a time as we kind of transition into what we're able to do in terms of meeting together. But as much as I love technology and the virtual option, I have realized even more like the physical interaction and connection is like what I value so much about it. So that was a long story, and I don't have an answer for you. Hopefully I will at some point.
That's why I asked it. There are no
That's
answers.
right.
Honestly, and you know, with things going on, it's like you just see that everything happens for a reason.
It's so true. You're absolutely right. Right.
So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, your tidbits of knowledge about your studio. Where can people learn more about Powerhouse and more about you?
Sure. So the website for Powerhouse is www.powerhousedancesj, as in South Jersey.com. And our Instagram is at Powerhouse Dance SJ. And we're also on Facebook, Powerhouse Dance. So yeah, people can find us there. My personal Instagram is at Jenny D. Torrey, JennyDetore. So yeah, anyone can come follow and find out more about classes that we have going on the website or on Instagram as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing many more things from Powerhouse and hopefully getting into class now that we're able to, actually dance together.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being here on behalf of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga. It's really my honor and pleasure to have you here, and just looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you, Leanne, so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.